We're now in year 2 of the DCU, and the future of this cinematic universe looks very different from the past. And by the past, I mean the last time I predicted the full DCU slate over a year ago. Looking back, that video was incredibly optimistic and a bit overstuffed. In this video, I'll be trying again, this time trying to be more realistic, while keeping in mind everything we've learned since then. So far, the DCU looks like this. There are the loose cannon projects of the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker Season 1, and Blue Beetle, before the DCU actually begins in 2024 with Creature Commandos Season 1. Following that is 2025 with Superman and Peacemaker Season 2, 2026 which introduces Supergirl, Lantern Season 2 which I'm predicting will introduce Green Arrow and retire Hal Jordan, and Clayface which I'm predicting will include the DCU Batman's live action debut even if it will be from the shadows. Finally, 2027 has Man of Tomorrow which will introduce Maxima and Brainiac, but I'm predicting will also introduce the Martian Manhunter, and Creature Commandos Season 2, which has been rumored to introduce Captain Atom. There's also Dynamic Duo in 2028, but it's not clear whether or not that will be set in the DCU. I think eventually we will learn that it is set in the DCU so as to avoid there being 3 cinematic Batman franchises and limit that to 2. This means that Dynamic Duo will feature the DCU Batman's first extended role, even if it does focus on Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, who both debut here and are shown to become Nightwing and Red Hood, respectively. So that's what we know so far, but where do we go from there? Well, those are just the projects with confirmed release years. There are still many projects confirmed, although we don't know which ones have been greenlit and which ones haven't been. This list of confirmed projects includes movies like The Brave and the Bold, Swamp Thing, Wonder Woman, Teen Titans, The Authority, and Sergeant Rock. None of these have been given a green light, and some of them I don't think will ever be made. Sergeant Rock was close to beginning filming and had a promised 2026 release, but fell apart because of what was apparently a poor third act in the script. The movie then lost its director before being delayed indefinitely. Sergeant Rock never really made any sense to me, and the fact that it lost its director and was delayed because the script wasn't good enough makes me think that it will never happen. Alongside Sergeant Rock, I'll also be completely removing The Authority from the chapter. Or rather, James Gunn kind of already did. Gunn has been open about how difficult it has been to incorporate The Authority into the DCU, and how the movie is not happening anytime soon. Frankly, I've been saying this since the beginning. The Authority as they are in the comics does not work in a mainline DC universe. It also doesn't work financially. It's an R-rated movie about a Z-list team. It just doesn't make any sense. I can see this movie being changed to a TV show that tries to lock into the boys/Invincible market, but even then, I don't think so. It just doesn't sound like it. I think members of the Authority will appear throughout, just like the Engineer, but the Authority and Sergeant Rock are not going to be included at all in this timeline. But what about the rest? Gunn has said that they won't be releasing movies within the 2 live-action Batman franchises in the same year, which means the earliest The Brave and the Bold can release is 2028. But even then, there is also a Batman movie releasing that year, either because of this or because it'll simply take a little bit longer to make this movie. I'm going to be predicting that The Brave and the Bold will be the DCU's tentpole mid-2029 release, and will follow up on Clayface introducing Gotham and Dynamic Duo showing the early days of the Bat Family by introducing the current day Bat Family, including Alfred, Nightwing, Oracle, and Damian Wayne as Robin. I think we could also expect from 2026 onwards at least 1, but I think sometimes even 2 Batman or Batman adjacent movies every single year. This movie would feature an end credit scene that leads into a shared sequel with Man of Tomorrow, another one of those Batman movies releasing every year. We'll get to it. I do not think, however, that there will be that large of a gap between DCU live-action movies or even tentpole DCU movies. Releasing in between the 2 would be the untitled Wonder Woman movie, which could be called Wonder Woman, but I'll be titling it something more interesting, The Legend of Wonder Woman, releasing in mid-2028. The movie will reveal that Diana has been present in every age of heroes in the 20th and 21st century, but focuses on her adjusting to the current landscape while we're introduced to Donna Troy, half setting up Teen Titans. After she's done with Wonder Woman, only then will Anna Nogueira move on to the Teen Titans movie, keeping this bi-yearly schedule for the writer from Supergirl in 2026 to The Legend of Wonder Woman in 2028 to the Teen Titans in 2030. Teen Titans will connect to previous movies, including bringing in Damian Wayne from The Brave and the Bold, Donna Troy from Wonder Woman, but also introduces Starfire, Raven, Beast Boy, and Cyborg, all of whom at that point would be teenagers. Finally is is Swamp Thing, which is dependent on the success of the release of the current body horror movie releasing this year, Clayface, but I think that movie will succeed. It's also the schedule of the writer/director James Mangold that this movie is dependent on. So based off all that, and the fact that James Mangold is going to be making a Star Wars movie beforehand, I think Swamp Thing fits nicely within an October 2029 release. I say October because it's a horror movie, that's the month where horror movies should be released. There are also two more movies that we don't know if they're in the DCU or not, an untitled Deathstroke and Bane movie and a Static movie. I'm going to lock down both as DCU projects. First is the Deathstroke and Bane movie, which might be Secret 6, but I'm predicting it will simply be a Deathstroke movie featuring Bane as an antagonist. We've recently gotten an update on who might be the director of the movie, and Gunn has said that he knows what the next DCU movie following Man of Tomorrow will be. I'm guessing it'll be this. I'm guessing this movie will take place on Salvation, feature Deathstroke as the main character, and be called Deathstroke the Terminator, releasing in early 2028. Static is primarily known as an animated character, and so far there's been a clear lack of the animated movies that they've been promising to make. So I'm predicting that Static Shock will be the next DCU animated movie after Dynamic Duo, releasing in 2031, the final year of the chapter. Hey, if you made it this far in the video, why not subscribe, or better yet, join the Black Lion Pride in the noble tier above for early access to videos, and a special thanks to the King tier members for the extra support. Then there are the TV shows, which includes Mr. Miracle, Blue Beetle, Waller, Booster Gold, an untitled Jimmy Olsen show, and Paradise Lost. As of now, there's a standout among these in Mr. Miracle, the only one of these series with official art and official progress being made on animation, aside for Creature Commandos Season 2. I think it's clear that Mr. Miracle will be the next series after Lanterns, and I think they'll get it out before the end of 2026. However, I think Mr. Miracle will be a miniseries, ending after just one season, since it's a direct adaptation of a comic book that doesn't continue beyond its initial story. The Jimmy Olsen series seems to also be making good progress compared to the ones announced in the original Slate reveal. This series will be a sort of companion piece to Man of Tomorrow in a stronger way than Peacemaker was to Superman. So, mirroring the July/August release, Jimmy Olsen will release in August. Gorilla Grodd will have a large role in the series, making it a great opportunity to introduce the Flash of the DCU, even if it is just CGI, moving too fast to see. The DCU simply might be just adapting that strategy, releasing a companion TV show to a big movie release. One that would fit well is Paradise Lost, releasing close to the Wonder Woman movie, with a recent optimistic update, a mid-2028 release right after The Legend of Wonder Woman. Makes sense. Paradise Lost will focus primarily on Hippolyta, Exoristos, Circe, and Greek gods like Ares, and will be the most far-removed project of the DCU in terms of its place in the timeline, meaning it can be very standalone as a TV show, never crossing over with the chapter, at least not completely, and just having a few new seasons after a few years. I don't have much to go on for the remaining three, but I do think the first season of Blue Beetle will be out by mid-2027. It'll be here we meet Ted Kord, and maybe Booster Gold will make a cameo, or maybe appearing a few times. Speaking of Booster Gold, that might take a bit longer to release. There were updates here and there was a showrunner brought on, but development seems slow, and Booster's suit and abilities makes me think it'll have a long pre- and post-production, so let's say early 2028. Finally is Waller, the only TV show that I am tempted to put into the same category as Sergeant Rock and The Authority, completely removed from the slate. However, I don't think it'll be completely removed, but rather I think it'll be shifted a bit into a Checkmate series instead. More of an official sequel to Peacemaker featuring Chris after returning from Salvation in Man of Tomorrow, and with a new, more serious tone, not written by James Gunn, and not featuring Peacemaker as the main character, but rather Checkmate as a whole, as they clash primarily with Amanda Waller, who is more like a deuteragonist or a side main character, maybe the main character in an ensemble cast. I have a feeling one of the reasons Waller is taking so long is because Waller just doesn't really work as the main protagonist. Making her a part of an ensemble makes a lot more sense. And I'm gonna make a bold prediction with this one and say that I think they'll manage to get it out by the end of 2027. Alright, so that's everything we know about, but where do we go from here? Well, the original plan, according to Gunn, was for the studio to release 2 live-action movies, 1 animated movie, 2 live-action series, and 2 animated series per year. This has not been the case so far, and it's not clear if this is referring to the DCU or DC Studios in general. I also don't think this includes second seasons as a part of that statement. I just won't be sticking directly directly to this at all because it's impossible, but that amount of projects does add up to 7, which will be the cap we'll be putting on any given year for a bit. Later on, as we add more second seasons, even third seasons and fourth seasons, sticking to that 7 project rule becomes less and less possible. To start, we can fill in the years with second and third seasons, which for the most part, aside from a few outliers, means 1, maybe 2 years later. Lanterns will become an ongoing series, managing to release a new season every 2 years. By season 2, Hal will either be dead or retired, and the duo of season 2 will no longer be Hal and John, but rather Guy and John. Also, Green Arrow returns and Black Canary is introduced. Blue Beetle season 2 will also release in 2028 and will delve deeper into the lore of the Reach. In 2029, we'd get Creature Commandos season 3. Hopefully this series can become an actual ongoing with many seasons beyond season 2, and then Booster Gold season 2 would release by the end of the year. By 2030, the DCU will have begun many shows, and so at this point there are many subsequent seasons. We'd have Jimmy Olsen season 2 as a companion to another Superman-focused movie we'll get to soon, Blue Beetle season 3, Paradise Lost season 2, and Lantern season 3, which is the final season of Lanterns, the idea being that after this chapter, in chapter 2, the Green Lanterns will be getting a movie franchise, one that focuses on Kyle Rayner, who is introduced here in season 3. And finally for 2030, Creature Commandos Season 4. It just keeps on going, and at this point they get more efficient at it, so they release it yearly, including the final season of Creature Commandos Season 5 in 2031, alongside Jimmy Olsen's Season 3, another companion to another Superman starring movie. But that's just the future seasons of shows we know about. There will be other shows, and they will also have more seasons. As you could see, there's many more slots to fill. Alright, so this is what we have for now, but where do we go from here? Well, Gunn has said that the plan is to lead it to a Justice League movie finale after 6 to 8 years, so I'll be cutting the chapter off 7 years after it began in 2024 in 2031, the final year of chapter 1. Everything else released within these years will be based on rumors, characters, places in pop culture, and hints by James Gunn. Having placed everything we've already placed, we've actually already covered everything up until and including 2028, but 2029 and beyond remain incomplete. Now, there are some big franchises that are clearly missing. There's no Flash, no Aquaman, no Green Arrow, and no Shazam. This isn't by accident. There seemed to be some sort of decision made behind the scenes to hold off on franchises focusing on the characters outside of the Trinity who had movies, or at least focus in the DCEU. I wouldn't expect Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey, Shazam, or even Batgirl projects at all, at least in the next decade or so. I understand why the Trinity is an exception, but I really don't understand why Blue Beetle is, but then Aquaman and the Flash seemingly aren't. Aquaman was the DCU's biggest moneymaker, and sure, the Flash movie flopped, but that's not because the character isn't popular, it's because Ezra Miller is incredibly unpopular. Both franchises had successful projects before their more recent, less successful projects, and both characters, unlike someone like Blue Beetle, are key corners of the DCU. Tangent aside, yeah, they are waiting a beat on characters like at least the Flash, that's confirmed, but it also seems like Aquaman and others, and so I will be doing the same for this video. Green Arrow was not given a big role in the DCU. Maybe this is a similar situation with the Arrowverse, but I don't think so. I think it's just that less writers are interested and less people came forward with a Green Arrow pitch, or maybe because they're keeping it hush-hush that he's appearing in Lantern Season 1. So that changes now. Green Arrow would be introduced in Lantern Season 1, the true identity of Gary Dillahunt's character. Dinah was introduced in Lantern Season 2, and now they receive a spin-off show, Green Arrow and Black Canary, but much like Hal Jordan in Lanterns, Green Arrow is relatively old. Black Canary is as well, but maybe not as much. We'd meet Roy Harper and his daughter, and Oliver would be blindsided by the knowledge that he now has a 30-year-old son, Connor Hawke. Oliver is old, but he sticks around for a few more years, while Connor is set up to take his place. Later that year, we get another very standalone, smaller budget R-rated movie in Lobo, which spins off from Supergirl and showcases Jason Momoa's character going on some sort of adventure of his own. Finally, for 2029 is the first season of The Terrifics, an animated series that focuses on many of the non-main character heroes brought together under the newly rebranded Justice Gang, now free from the Maxwell Lord corporate control known as The Terrifics. The lineup includes Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, Hawkgirl, Maxima, Martian Manhunter, Vixen, Mr. Miracle, Big Barda, and newly introduced Plastic Man. Essentially, any hero in the DCU without a starring role elsewhere is dumped into The Terrifics. So Guy Gardner is not here because he has a starring role on Lanterns. He can't appear, he's just not a member of this team. Then comes 2030, 7 years after Aquaman in the Lost Kingdom, and we finally get a reboot. To differentiate from the previous incarnation, this Aquaman is more comic accurate looking, but also the movie is titled Emperor Aquaman, taking primary inspiration from the relatively recent comic, or at least as of right now, in which Aquaman becomes the avatar of the blue and gains the ability to control water. This connects to the avatars of other colors, including Swamp Thing, Anton Arcane, and Maxine Baker, as Animal Man makes his debut. This Aquaman movie delves more so into the lore of the colored energy forces of Earth than it does the worlds of Atlantis, since that's been done already. Spinning off of The Brave and the Bold and acting as a sequel to dynamic duo Nightwing Season 1, a live-action series that showcases Dick's first year in Bloodhaven, along the way building the Bat family in a way that only a TV show can. Dick takes in Cassandra Cain, who becomes his sidekick Batgirl, Jason makes his live-action debut here as Red Hood, and Deathstroke returns after his movie. With just one empty slot left in 2030, it's also the most important movie of the year, World's Finest. The DCU Batman and DCU Superman finally meet for the first time and become fast friends. They don't clash at all. Damian is off with the Teen Titans, and much of the Bat family is in Bloodhaven or back in Gotham, but in this movie, Bruce is still joined by a Robin, Tim Drake, making his debut. He was busy during the events of The Brave and the Bold. This movie takes place primarily in Metropolis, and it concludes its individual story, but also flows nicely into a sort of second part, the next year's big movie, which will be Justice League. Finally, Chapter 1 comes to an end in 2031. The Terrifics and Green Arrow and Black Canary both get a second season, and Booster Gold gets a third and final season. But it's here we finally return to The Flash. The Fastest Man Alive will be a live-action movie, giving The Flash his official debut, but killing him off as Wally West is cemented as the new Flash, transitioning over to Wally West being the main Flash of this new era. Acting as a companion piece to this movie, releasing right after it, is The Rogues, a miniseries that focuses on the Rogues trying to pull off a heist while circumventing the Flash and his sidekick Kid Flash, taking place beforehand but coming out after. And finally, this final slot of the chapter is Justice League: The New Frontier, bringing together a lot of heroes from across the DCU, but the main heroes are Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the Flash, Green Lantern, Aquaman, and Martian Manhunter, coming together to become the leaders of this new era of superheroics that began around 10 years ago when Superman debuted. And so this is what I predict Chapter 1 will look like. 44 releases over the course of 8 years, or if you count the loose cannon projects, that's 47 releases over the course of 11 years. Among these are 17 live-action movies, 2 animated movies, 4 animated series, and 9 live-action series. So it's actually 30 individual projects if an entire TV show counts as one project. Now, among these movies, most of them would not be required viewing. A lot of them would just be one-off movies not intended to create a franchise, but rather just be stories told within this world with characters who can recur. A lot of my predictions in this video are not what I would do, but what I'm predicting will happen. But at the same time, there are things that are simply impossible to predict. For instance, I never would have predicted a Jimmy Olsen show or a Clayface movie, but also I didn't include any video games. James Gunn did say they'd be including everything in this universe, from live action TV shows and movies to animated TV shows and movies and video games, but I don't think that they will succeed with the video game part of things because they simply take too long to make, and generally speaking fit better as their own separate universe, and I think it should stay that way. So with everything we know so far, this is what I think Gods and Monsters can end up looking like. Thanks so much for watching, and see you later.